welcome to the second edition of a relevant campaign started by India Today Group, supported by Hero Electric. Let India breathe.
Air pollution is a major issue.
Vehicular pollution is extremely toxic and we are directly inhaling that.
Number of deaths caused by air pollution. Diesel is the biggest contributor.
More than 90% of the surface area of the country today has bad air.
Air pollution is growing at an alarming rate in India, causing health risks to everybody, especially our children. Of the most polluted countries in the world, India ranks in the top 5. And the main reason for it, vehicular emissions. As much as 2/3 of the deaths from air pollution is because of vehicular emissions from diesel vehicles. With number of vehicles increasing and AQI levels on the rise annually, it is becoming extremely difficult to live in this toxic air. We decided to investigate the matter in depth to understand the underlying causes and come up with solutions to curb this invisible menace that is killing us slowly.
Vehicular pollution has grown at an alarming rate due to growing urbanization in India. The air pollution from vehicles in urban areas, particularly in big cities, has become a serious problem. The pollution from vehicles has begun to tell through symptoms like cough, headache, nausea, irritation of eyes, various bronchial and visibility problems. As much as 2/3 of deaths from air pollution in India can be attributed to exhaust emissions from diesel vehicles. The emissions are responsible for nearly 3,85,000 deaths in 2015 alone.
It's a multiple problem. Number one, there is an increase in the absolute numbers. Number two, the proportion of diesel vehicles is more. Number three, the proportion of larger volume engine vehicles is more. If you look at 95, you had large number of Marutis on the roads and a large number of Fiat cars, which were all small vehicles. And today you see such a large number of SUVs on the road. Now SUVs have bigger engines and bigger engines consume more diesel. So per kilometer, it is guzzling more fuel. When it's guzzling more fuel, it is releasing more exhaust. So per unit vehicle, amount of smoke coming on the road is more. The number of units on the road is more. The number of units running on diesel is more. And the number of units which are getting older and older and therefore more polluting is also more. So overall, it is adding a huge volume of gaseous and particulate matter to Delhi's air.
If you look at the number of deaths caused by air pollution, and when we talk about air pollution, PM 2.5, diesel is the biggest contributor. So the diesel caused pollution is actually disproportionately causing the number of deaths. And there is no doubt about that.
The main cause of vehicular pollution is the rapidly growing number of vehicles.
It took about 60 years in India to get the first 100 million vehicles. And after that, it just took another 6 years to add another 100 million. Just understand the pace of change. And the numbers are growing across all cities, in mega cities, in metropolitan cities, in smaller cities today. What is even more worrying is the fact that while mega cities like Delhi, Mumbai, Calcutta are already registering and already have very high vehicle stock, but the rate of increase today is actually higher in smaller cities of India. Because of that increase in number, today the congestion that we are beginning to see, and when you have congestion, the same vehicle caught in the congestion, idling for a long time, accelerating and decelerating continuously, it makes the same vehicle emit twice more than what it would otherwise emit. And so the numbers and the growing dependence on personal vehicles is leading to this increase in the problem.
I think it is not only severe, it's beginning to become critical now. And the results are all seen. If I see outside my window today, I can't see across the road. That's what it is.
The other factors of vehicular pollution in the urban areas are two-stroke engines, poor fuel quality, old vehicles, inadequate maintenance, congested traffic, poor road condition, and old automotive technologies and traffic management system.
Vehicular pollution has contributed to nearly 40% of the total pollution in the national capital region. The number of vehicles in India has risen exponentially, and with it, harmful emissions. That has led to visible problems in the country through symptoms of headache, nausea, irritation in the eyes, bronchial symptoms, and visibility problems.
Vehicles are running on diesel or petrol, etc. So these are all hydrocarbons. They are basically composed of hydrogen, carbon, and oxygen. Three atoms are there. If the combustion takes place completely in the engine, at the end you will have H2O and CO2 being released. But then many times complete combustion doesn't occur, and you have incomplete combustion products being released, which have all sorts of hydrocarbon byproducts. Now many of them are in the cancer causing category, and they cause immense harm to the human system. So you have chemicals being released, you have particulate matter being released from the vehicular exhaust. Both these immensely damage the health system, whether it is newborns, children, adults, elderly, each one of them is affected. It has been proved that people who live very, very close to main highways where there is a high volume of traffic, there are numerous studies from the Western countries where they have looked at the incidence of health problems in people who are living, say, within 50 meters of a main highway compared to those who are living far away from a main highway, and the incidence of health problems in people living closer to the highway have been repeatedly documented to be many times higher than those who are living away.
A World Bank study in Delhi in 1998 showed that diesel vehicles were responsible for as much as 62.5% of the total particulate load coming from all vehicles. Even after the implementation of the CNG program, a recent World Bank study of 2004 confirms, based on actual measurements and characterization of PM 2.5, which is a tiny fraction of the particulate, that diesel fuel's contribution could still rise as high as 23%.
While the public transport system in India is not near perfect, it's the old vehicles that still ply on the Indian roads and do not follow international norms and standards. Lest we forget, we're still a motor vehicle economy that is heavily dependent on gasoline.
If you look at it carefully, the entire problem is emanating from the use of fossil fuels. Vehicles, what are they using? They are using petrol or diesel. These are fossil fuels. What is the industry using as its energy source? Mostly coal, which is a fossil fuel. What is the aviation industry using? Aviation fuel, which is also a fossil fuel. So if you look at the entire spectrum, majority of the pollution today is coming from the use of fossil fuels, and that's where the whole problem arises.
Good public provision of any one of any one of society's needs, right? Whether it's transport, whether it's you name it, right? Is definitely an important part. So public policy intervention is important, right? But more important is, or equally important, is our ability to sort of call out transgressions, right? Meaning, if you find that there is active, violation of norms, right? You have to have a way in which the citizen's able to report and get grievances addressed.
World now has to move lock, stock and barrel from extensive use of fossil fuels to more and more use of renewable sources of energy like air, water and sun, which are present in nature in abundance, and when they are used, there is no such byproduct or polluted air.
With old and diesel vehicles running on the road, lack of public transport system and disturbing increase in health risks, mostly among children and the elderly, it is high time that we address the problem of vehicular pollution holistically. There are many countries that have come and made that shift. China and Scandinavian countries have moved to electric vehicles, particularly in the two-wheeler and the three-wheeler segments. Time for a short break. When we return, we'll explore tangible solutions and methods to curb emissions and make our air cleaner. Welcome back to our special show on air pollution, Let India Breathe. Today we'll focus on how to curb the choking menace of vehicular pollution that need both immediate and long-term attention. In addition, viable options for Indians could be to move from fossil fuels to renewable resources and clean energy like electric vehicles that will not only reduce consumption and imports of gasoline, but also will reduce harmful emissions.
Targeting air pollution caused by vehicular emissions requires a holistic approach, which should ideally comprise making the transition from BS4 engines to BS6 in automobiles, boosting various kinds of public transport, changing public transport fuel consumption from diesel and petrol to CNG, or better, switching to electric mobility.
For us, it's a no-brainer. We have to move into e-mobility very quickly. At this point of time, e-mobility is the best option in terms of the tailpipe emissions. I think it's the absolute need of the hour when we look at various factors. So if you look at first and foremost from the fuel point of view, from the oil economy, over 70% of our oil is actually imported. So it makes absolute sense for us to switch there. The next factor, which is even more critical, is our pollution factor. Every liter of fuel that is burned produces about 2.3 liters of carbon dioxide that gets burned into the air. Now, with the kind of pollution levels that we have right now, this part of the year, it's slightly better, but come till about January, February, it's a nightmare what we live in.
Whether vehicular pollution is one of the major causes. So once we agree on a common platform that yes, it is, and it can contribute a lot to the health of the nation, health of the citizens, automatically everything starts happening. Vehicle pollution needs to be tackled, and perhaps electric mobility or alternate fuels are an answer to it.
April 2020 will see the rolling out of BS6 emission standards in Delhi and the National Capital Region.
India is the only country in the world which has taken this decision to go directly from Bharat Stage 4 to Bharat Stage 6 and skip the Stage 5 completely. Now, this is going to give us huge advantage because a Bharat Stage 6 compliant vehicle is 80 to 90% cleaner than the current Bharat Stage 4 vehicles. Now, there are two issues here. The BS6 vehicles are going to come with very advanced and very sensitive emission control systems. And if we do not have any strategy to inspect them on road to ensure that they are working properly and people are not tampering with those systems, then we are in great trouble, because then you are again going to see very high emissions. The pollution challenge that we have today in Delhi, even with Bharat Stage 6, we will not be able to address the entire challenge. And for that, now the next big leap has to be towards zero emissions. And for that, the electric mobility transition is a very important way forward.
2019 was the year electric vehicles gained popularity globally. The Government of India, as a part of Mission 2020 to make India an electric mobility nation, started faster adoption and manufacturing of hybrid and electric vehicles scheme, FAME, in 2018, which aims to provide subsidies worth $1.4 billion USD to both buyers and manufacturers.
We have seen a lot of growth in delivery companies, right? The likes of Zomato, Swiggy, Dunzo, and most of the delivery happens of Amazon, etc. The last mile is through two wheels. So if you take that into account, these people do about 70 to 80 kilometers per day. So that's a lot of CO2, being emitted. So we plan to reduce those pollution by converting those fleet to electric vehicles. It will generate a lot more income for our customers, because the cost of running an electric vehicle is much less than that of a petrol vehicle. We say that the amount of money that you spend on fuel in a month pays for your entire electric scooter.
A major cause of pollution are emissions from delivery vehicles that are not only old engines but also gasoline-based. To reduce these emissions, if the government could push for electric vehicles within the service industry, it could help India chart the roadmap for electric mobility faster. The Indian consumer has warmed up to electric vehicles. There are three kinds of electric vehicles: hybrid electric vehicles, plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, and battery electric vehicles. At present, the electric mobility consumer base comprises individuals, cab rental companies such as a Blue Smart Mobility, and even B2B companies such as Amazon and Zomato that are busy converting their gasoline-run delivery fleet of two-wheelers into electric two-wheelers.
लेडीज़ के लिए स्पेशली ये स्कूटी सेफ़ है, लाइट वेट रहता है, इतना वेट नहीं होता है, स्पेस रहता है, पीछे भी इसके काफ़ी स्पेस होता है अगर आप कुछ सामान वगैरह या कुछ लगा, और वन टाइम चार्ज करके आप इसको इजीली अपना अप डाउन, आप लोकल का भी आप अप डाउन, और ऐसा भी नहीं है कि आपको अगर अपना रूटीन का कोई वेटेज कोई सामान वगैरह लाना है तो उसमें भी आपको इसमें कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है।
एयर पोल्यूशन इतना ज़्यादा हो रहा है कि बच्चों को डेली कोई ना कोई खांसी या इवन हमें भी इसमें प्रॉब्लम आने लगी है। इसे ख़त्म करना है सरकार की जिम्मेवारी के साथ साथ हम लोगों की भी एक नैतिक कर्तव्य है कि भाई हम इसको ख़त्म करें, और लोगों को थोड़ा सा अवेयर करने की भी ज़रूरत है कि भाई हम कैसे पोल्यूशंस को कम कर सकते हैं और किस तरीके से हम इसको डे बाय एकदम तो ख़त्म नहीं कर सकते, लेकिन थोड़ा थोड़ा इसको कम कर सकते हैं, और छोटे छोटे स्टेप्स हम सभी को लेने होंगे, जब भी इसमें थोड़ी कामयाबी मिलेगी हमें। इसमें अच्छा ये है कि आप पोर्टेबली इसकी ये डिग्गी खोल के और आप इसमें से बैटरी निकाल के अपने जिस भी रूफ पे आप रह रहे हो वहाँ ले जाओ, वहाँ चार्ज करके फिर वापसी लगा दो, और वो ईजी है और इतना वेट भी नहीं है कि भाई हमें उठाने में ज़्यादा वजन है।
एक बार ले लें हम गाड़ी, उसके बाद मुझे तो नहीं लगता कुछ हमें इसमें कन्वेंस, मतलब जैसे हमें कुछ पैसे लगाने की ज़रूरत पड़ेगी फ़िलहाल, और गाड़ियों के अकॉर्डिंग जैसे मतलब उसमें पेट्रोल का खर्चा होएगा, इसमें कोई खर्चा ही नहीं है, इसमें सिर्फ हमें चार्जिंग करनी पड़ेगी ओनली।
It is argued that electric vehicles consume electricity generated by thermal power plants. Although the Central Pollution Control Board has directed the power plants to install electrostatic precipitators to limit PM emission and fuel gas desulfurization, which would help bring down SO2 emissions. It is time to look at alternate sources of power, such as solar and wind energy as well.
If we were not using the electric vehicles, then what would have happened? We would have used the IC engines. that means the pollution is doubled, because fossil fuel fired plants were not going away, and there is a localized pollution in the form of IC engines. So even if we are using the fossil fuel fired power plants to power our electric mobility, that means that at least we are able to get rid of the localized pollution. So the electric mobility, renewable energy, and all this becomes like one ecosystem. So renewable energy supplies power, and that we store in the batteries, and that fires the electric mobility. I think we have to look at it as a overall basket, or the overall bouquet of the energy sources which we have got from the nature, which includes some of the fossil fuel and a lot of this renewable energy which is now viable, and try to make what is the optimum use or the optimum mix of these sources.
The new age citizens are doing their bit to reduce their respective carbon footprint by indulging in carpooling or ride sharing, a practice encouraged by companies such as Rideshare, Quick Ride, amongst others. The government is working tirelessly on setting up charging infrastructures in major cities to facilitate electric vehicle owners and riders.
I would say electric mobility is zero pollution on the road, and that's where it makes most of the sense.
With upgraded engines, strong public transport not running on petrol or diesel alone, ride sharing and carpooling practices, and electric vehicles on the road, India can hope for cleaner and fresher air in the future.
It is quite apparent that to bring down the envelope of air pollution caused by vehicular emissions, public transport system in India will have to be strengthened. The nation will have to transition to electric mobility in all categories, and commuters will have to start thinking about carpooling or higher quality vehicles that bring down toxic content in fuels.
It's not only important, it's compulsory, perhaps it's mandated, perhaps for Indians.
लोगों को थोड़ा सा अवेयर करने की भी ज़रूरत है कि भाई हम कैसे पॉल्यूशंस को कम कर सकते हैं और किस तरीके से हम इसको एकदम तो ख़त्म नहीं कर सकते, लेकिन थोड़ा-थोड़ा इसको कम कर सकते हैं.
The electric mobility transition is a very important way forward.
We have to move into e-mobility very quickly.
The road ahead seems tough, but responsible agencies and citizens are working tirelessly with undying motivation. That's all in this episode from us. In our next episode, we'll bring you another cause responsible for air pollution that's enveloping India.